Hey everyone, and good morning. Just going to go quickly through chapter 2. I'm going to break this up into two videos, which will be to section 1, which will do adding and subtracting, and then chapter 2-2, which will be multiplication and division. So let's get right to it, because there's nothing worse than watching a 20-minute video on, I hope that's not this long. I hope this is less than 10 minutes. So here are your learning objectives. I've also shared the link in Blackboard, so you can go directly to these notes that you're seeing me write on. And I'm going to skip the first part of it, the types of fractions, and we're just going to go straight to converting improper fractions to whole or mixed numbers. So really quickly, our improper fractions, remember improper fractions are equal or greater than 1. So anything that would give us 1 is also going to be an improper fraction. We can convert that to a mixed number. Hold on one second. There we go. So we have this as our mixed number, and then we have 16/5, right, which we know can also equal, right, if we take 16 and divide it by 5, we know that that goes in there 3. 15 leaves us with 1. We can't go anymore. That's our remainder. We have 3 1/5. So 3 1/5 is our final answer. So 16/5 is also represented as 3 1/5. And we need to know how to do this so we can do adding, subtraction, division, and multiplication as well. So let's keep scrolling down here. Converting mixed numbers to improper fractions, right? So how do we turn 6 1/8, right? What else can that equal, right? And we know if we multiply this, right, we get 48, and then we add our numerator here, we get 49, and we know that, right, we keep our denominators always the same, and we know that that is 8. So what would 49/8 also equal? Well, it equals 6 1/8, but if we want to turn it into a fraction, we can do that, which helps us when we work with division and multiplication and stuff like that with fractions. That skill right there. All right, reducing fractions to lowest terms. Your book gives you the prime number on how to use that. If you want to use that, I guess you can. I've never used it. I don't really know exactly how to even do it. I'd have to look it up again. I don't remember. I usually, and for this course, there's nothing really crazy that you'd have to do. So basically, if you look at, if you're looking at these numbers, you know that 6 would go into, right? We know 2 would, 3 wouldn't, 4 wouldn't, 5, of course, no, and 6 goes into both of them, right? 6 goes into 24 4 times, and 6 goes into 35 times. So 24/30, right, or 4/5, right? So we get 4 divided by 5 equals 80%. 24 divided by 30 gives us 80%. We know that these fractions, right, or portions, are 80%, right? So if I were to, I always like to use candy bars. It makes everybody hungry, right? But if I were to break up a candy bar, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Or if I were to break up the same candy bar into, 30 pieces, right? Blah, blah, blah. I'll just keep doing. We'll just imagine that that's 30 pieces. If I were to do 24 pieces of that, right? Or if I were to do 4 pieces of this candy bar, I know that it's the same. It's basically roughly 80% of the candy bar. It is 80% of the candy bar that I'm giving you. It's just how we decided to divvy it up. Okay? All right, finding the greatest common divisor, all right? You can do this in one way. So there I just did it because I know 6, right? 6 goes evenly into 4 times into 24 and into 35 times. You can use this method also if you'd like to figure out how many times it does, but most people kind of know off the top of their head. And if you know your multiplication tables, for the most part, you should be fine. But if not, you can do it this way. If you have questions on this way, just give me an email and we'll go over it. Raising fractions. This is also important, and you need to know how to do this when, especially when subtracting fractions. Is right in this last example, right? We took 24/30ths to 4/5, but sometimes you can't subtract a fraction from something at 4/5, so you have to raise it back up to something else, right? We want to take 4/5 and raise it to 24/30ths, or in this example over here, we're going to take 4/7. What else would equal 4/7? What is a higher term, right? And we know that 7, right? So if we have 4/7 over here, right? We know that, right? We know this denominator is 28. We want to make it 28. We know that, right? 7 times 4 gives us 28. So we just multiply our numerator by the same thing. It gives us 16/28. Right. And if you look at that, you say, oh, hey, that can be reduced. And yes, it can. It can be reduced to 4/7, right? But we already know that. We want to raise it up. Okay. So our final answer is, right, in this case, we want to raise it, is 16/28. All right. And so adding like fractions. Like I always say, every student, when they have to do adding and subtracting of, right, they're always looking at, are the numerators the same, right? And it's like, yes, it is the same, right? We want to make sure that those things are the same. And then we can go ahead, and if we know they're the same, we can go ahead and just add these. So these are pretty simple. We just add 1 plus 4 gives us 5, and we know that the numerator or denominator is the same, right? And I always tell students, if you have trouble, some people just have trouble with fractions. They just understanding what a fraction is, right? And it's a piece of a whole. So if we have a candy bar and we're breaking it up 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, we have 7 pieces. This is the number 1 and this is number 7, right? If I already have, why does this stay the same? If I already have 1/7 and I add 4 more pieces, right, I now have 5/7 of a candy bar, right? Or a certain percentage of that candy bar, right? Be a little over 60%, right? If I'm correct on there, 70%, excuse me. Okay, you can see it here, 11/12 plus 1/12 gives us 12/12, which is 1 5/9, right? This, we have an improper fraction, and we just convert that. We just do the division. We know 9 goes into 11 once. 11 minus 9 gives us 2, so 1 2/9. Okay. Least common denominator, which is pretty fine, right? That's the smallest non-zero whole number into which all denominators will divide evenly. Well, right, I always go with the largest and figure out from there, right? I know that 21 goes into 21 once. 21 will not go into 7, so I'm not looking at 7. What I want to know is does 7 go into 21 first? And yes, it does, all right? So that is the least common denominator. So I can take this 7th. Well, I want to turn it into 21. All right, so I would multiply that by 3. So I have to multiply this by 3, which would give me 9/21 plus 5/21. So right now I can do this equation over here. Right? Okay. And that's fine. When you're adding it, that's all you want to do is just figure out how can I get common denominators. So adding unlike fractions, and I think this is where the Collaborate meeting got destroyed for those of you in my synchronous class. So adding unlike fractions, here we have all of these numbers. You can use the prime number method if you want. I always say, okay, where's my largest denominator? Okay, does anything go into that? Some of it, one of it does no. Okay, so I double it. 24. Yeah, a couple of them do, but not all of them. Okay, we just keep going up. We find out that 72 is our least common denominator, right? It's the lowest number that all of these numbers will go into. So how many times does 3 go into 72? 24 times. How many times does 8 go into 72? 9 times. How many times does 9 go into 72? 8 times. And then we just add them up and we get our number. Okay, 47 over 72. And that cannot be reduced anymore. Adding mixed numbers. Actually, this is where everything went to hell in a handbasket. So we want to know 4 plus 6 plus 7. Okay, and we know that we have 7/20. I do it over here. I know it's over here too, but sometimes when you see it worked out, some students like that a little better to actually see somebody do it and demonstrate it. It helps. Sometimes just looking at pictures doesn't really show you what's going on. So we want to know what is the lowest common denominator. Well, we know it's 20, right? So this one is going to be easy. It's going to equal 4 and 7/20. That one doesn't change. Well, I want to keep this at 20. How many times, right? So this is going to be, it goes in there 4 times. 4, so this is going to equal 6 and 12/20. And we know this is going to be 7 and 20. And this times 5 gives you 20, and this times 5 gives you 5. So before we start adding up anything, we're going to get, right, over here, we're going to get, when we add all this up, we get 1 and 4/20. Right, because we add 7 to 12 and 5, we get 24/20. So that's going to equal 1 and 4/20. So now, right, we're going to say, well, okay, so we're going to add 4 plus 6 plus 7, and that's going to give us 17. So then we add the 17 to this, and now we get 18 and 4/20, which can become 18 and 1/5, and this is our final answer. We can read right because 4 goes into 25 times. 4 once, 25 times, and we get our final answer. All right, subtracting like fractions. Again, everybody's happy because the denominators are the same. So 9 minus 1 is 8/10. All right, if necessary, you can reduce this, right? Because you can reduce this down, which would be 2 goes in there 4 times and 2 goes in there 5 times. Or you can reduce it, that way is basically the easiest, I guess. All right, subtracting unlike fractions. Okay, again, it's the same thing. We basically are doing it just like we do with addition. We're just subtracting the numbers, right? So we need to find, we have this equation, so 5/8 minus 2 over 64. Well, this is nice because I know we don't have to raise this up anymore. I know 8 goes into 64. So what else can 5, how do I get to 64? Well, I'm gonna multiply this by, right, this is by 8 gives us 64, and this by 8 gives us 40. So this one also equals 40 over 64. So now we can do this, and this gives us 38 over 64, which can be reduced, right, by 2 is the number that goes in there. We can't find anything else. So 2 goes into 38 19 times, and to 64 32 times. And that's our final answer. This is also correct, but if it asks you to reduce it, you have to reduce it to the lowest, right? Subtracting mixed numbers. Now this gets a little bit complicated because you have to know a little bit about fraction size and percentages and that type of stuff. So when borrowing is not necessary. So in this case, this is not necessary because 1/2 is actually more than 3/8. So I don't need to borrow. I don't need to borrow from the whole number. I don't need to borrow from the 6. I just need to raise 1/2 into a fraction, to a higher fraction, right? So one of 2 things is a half, right? 4 of 8 things is also a half, right? So I know my denominator is 8. So I'm just going to raise this by multiplying my 6 and 1/2, right? I'm going to raise this to 8. It's 4 times 4. So I'm going to get 4/8 and then bring over my 6. And then now I can subtract my 3/8, which is going to give me, not subtracting anything there, 4 that is 1, and my common denominator is 8. And so my answer is this. Okay. All right. Well, what if we have to borrow from our whole number? Okay. This is going to be a little bit different. This is our last slide, and then we'll do some problems. What if we have 3 and 1/2 minus 1 and 3/4? Well, 3/4 is greater than 1/2. So we're going to have to borrow over here. And so we're going to do, we're going to figure out, okay, how do we do this? So we're going to borrow from the 3. We want to borrow 1 from it, basically, right? And since our denominator is 4, that's our least common denominator is 4, we're going to borrow 1, which is going to be 4/4. All right. So, whoops, I need to erase this. I got ahead of myself. Sorry. Okay. Before we do this, let's get correct terms first. I jumped way ahead. So we have 3 and 1/2, right? So we're going to get common denominators. So we're going to, right, to do that, we're going to have to multiply these by 2, right? Which is going to give us 3 and 2/4 minus 1 and 3/4. Well, that still doesn't work. Like I said, 1/2 is less than 3/4. So we have 2/4 and 3/4. I can't do it. So now I have to borrow from this 3, okay? And since my denominator is 4, I want to borrow 1. So what is, if everything, our whole is 4, this is 3 parts of 4, and this is 2 parts of 4, I want to borrow 1 whole. So 1 whole is 4/4. I'm going to take that to 2. We're going to use that 1 and call it 4/4, and we're going to add it to our 2/4. And we're going to get, right, 6/4. Okay. So now I can do my subtraction. Now I can do 2 and 6/4 minus 1 and 3/4. And now I get 1. 6 minus 3 is 3 and 4. So 3 and 1/2 minus 1 and 3/4 is 1 and 3/4. Okay. All right. Let's do a few questions. I'm going to put these up here, and I'm going to have you add the following and reduce to the lowest terms. Open this up so you can see that. Okay. Those are your 2 questions. I'll have you pause the video right now, and then I'm going to work them out. So this is pretty simple. So we know that 3 plus 3 is 6. 9 plus 9 is 9. We can reduce that by 3. And that gives it, whoops, that gives us 2/3. It gives us 2/3. I'll write it over here. There we go. Right? Because this can be divided by 3, and this can be divided by 3. Okay. Let's look at add the following and reduce to lowest terms. So we're going to add this. And since it's adding and they're common, this is going to be 8. And this is going to be 4, right? And this 6 plus 4 is 10. This can be reduced, so we divide it by 2. And we know that 2 goes in there. excuse me, 4/8. Excuse me, 4. Ugh, idiot. There we go. 4 goes in there once, and 4 goes into 8. 2, so we get 10 and 1/2 is our answer. Okay. Here's the last one. Subtract the following and reduce to lowest terms. I'll pause it, or you can pause it, and then we'll get started. So we are going to look at doing this one. So we're going to basically, if we put this up, I'll do it over here. So we're going to have 14 3/8 minus 10 5/8. Well, we can't do that. So we're going to have to borrow from here, which is going to give us 13. Our common denominator is 8. So we're going to add which is going to give us 11/8 over 5/8. And that is going to give us 13 minus 10 is 3. 11 minus 5 is 6. And then 8. And we know that 2 goes into 6 3 times and 8 4 times. So our answer is 3 3/4. All right, I'm going to stop it there. Please email me if you have any questions at all about any of this material, and I'll try to help you as best I can. All right, until then.